Hello, this is Anna Amelia from North East Animal Rights. Welcome you all to another one of our Saturday Spotlight interviews, and today we are absolutely delighted to have Sue Joyce from Little Green Pigeon Sanctuary in Staffordshire. So welcome, Sue, and thank you very much for agreeing to do this with us.
Thank you. Thanks, Anna.
It's lovely to see you again as well. I was just saying before we went on air how glamorous you always look, even though you're always probably covered in pigeon poop.
Yeah, I know. I don't feel it this morning.
So first of all, the question which I ask everyone who I talk to, can you tell us about your vegan journey, please?
Yeah, gladly. So I've always been vegetarian. I was vegetarian, well, I say always, since I was about 8 years old. Yeah. And that was because the International Fund for Animal Welfare came into my primary school, which is an odd thing. I don't think they do that now, but they used to.
Yeah.
And literally that day I went home and said to my parents, right, we can't use things tested on animals and I need to go vegetarian. So that kind of started it. But I never made the, like lots of us, I never made the connection between that and dairy and veganism. So I was vegetarian, and I used to do a lot for sort of animal rights and all sorts when I was a kid. And I was sort of in the Green Party, and I used to speak about stuff. And then it was only when my son was about 10 years old, about 8 or 9, and he came home from school one day and a very similar thing had happened. Somebody had gone into his school and talked to them, and I don't know who that was, but he came home and he just went, I think we should be vegan. I went, okay, let's talk about it. And literally he said, I just want you to watch a few videos, Mum, and I want you to talk about a couple of things. And within about 2 hours we'd emptied the fridge of all our dairy, and that was it.
Wow.
So it was him that made me do it, really. And it's one of those that I know lots of vegans talk about it, that they just didn't realize, because you just don't see, do you? And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, why didn't we do this years ago? We should have always been vegan. So he's always been vegetarian. He's 21 now, so he's always been vegetarian. But yeah, obviously we've both been vegan for the last, I think it's about 11 years I've been vegan. So
So I suppose you've been vegan before. Obviously it's quite mainstream now, which is great. But obviously sort of like when it was a bit difficult, a bit more unknown, people were kind of like seen as much more extreme then.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So why pigeons then? I know why, because I love them. I absolutely love them.
I was like, oh yeah, they're lovely. Because they're just, do you know what? To me, pigeons are a bit like vegans. So they just get picked on for no reason, and they're just trying to live their life, and so people created pigeons, if you like. These are not these sort of pigeons anyway are not native to this country. So a wood pigeon is, but a wood pigeon can go out into the woods where they live, and they can eat clover and all sorts of stuff, and they can get seeds and find food, but these guys can't. And these are here, especially ones like these blue bars, because they've been used as racing pigeons, and then they've just been overbred and left to starve. So it's exactly the same as breeding a puppy and then just throwing it into the town centre. There's no way a dog would be able to survive on its own in this country, and it's the same with these guys. So I used to work in veterinary practice, and people would bring all sorts of birds in, and I used to look after all sorts of birds. And then about 4 years ago, I just got a reputation for looking after pigeons, and now I get so many pigeons that I try not to look after the garden birds as well. I tend to try and get them to other sanctuaries so I can just look after the pigeons, really. But it's kind of, what's the phrase, victim of your own success, in that now people think I'm an expert, and I'm not at all. I don't really know what I'm doing. So there's some amazing people in the wildlife pigeon sanctuary sector, I guess you would call it, because it's quite a big thing, that I go to for advice, like Jenny Mason at Safe Haven and people like that. So yeah, I'm not an expert. I just kind of, pardon the pun, but I kind of wing it. And I guess I've got experience, but yeah, I've not got a background in looking after pigeons particularly. But it is just purely that I get so many in now. It's trying to sort of work out what's best for them. But what I'm able to do is to offer them a forever home, so they can live about 15 years. So that's kind of what the setup is here. I do get the ones that are injured and ill, obviously locally, but what I've tended to do over the last few years is take them from other sanctuaries where they've been rehabilitated and they've been made better, and then they just need somewhere to go for sanctuary for the rest of their lives, which is the setup that I've got here. I've got about 300 birds that are resident here.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a couple of interesting facts here already. You said they're not native to this country, which I'm surprised at, because I thought they were, and also the length of time that they live, 15 years.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one that really surprises people. Yeah, it's a long time. Yeah. So I know when I get a baby feral handed in, she could be with me 15 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a big commitment.
I mean, some of us in our group, we volunteer for Paws for Thought in Sunderland, and we get a lot of pigeons, you know, a variety of the different types. And we also get a lot of gulls, herring gulls, and in gulls we get, I mean, it's been horrendous with avian flu over the last sort of, you know, few weeks. But again, gulls and pigeons, they're the two birds which I talk about when I go into schools to do the animal aid talks, because yes, they're the birds that people don't sort of like respect enough, and they don't appreciate, and they don't see the, I mean, I always call seagulls, like the herring gulls, magnificent, because they are, and nobody takes the time to get to know them. And the pigeons are similar, you know, they're so beautiful, so, you know, I kind of concentrate on the colours and all the different markings and everything, and all the different facts about them. So if we got any more, that vilified, yeah. I mean, we you know, they get called flying rats, and as if like being a flying, I mean, a rat's not a problem. I mean, we all love rats as well. So So how does a typical day look like for you then?
Well, unless I've got something like this, normally I'm out feeding, cleaning, giving them fresh water, sorting out the water fountains. They've all got water fountains in there. They love water. Pigeons love water. And I guess because a lot of the time people see these guys in cities and towns, they don't realise that. Yeah. But if you really look at them, you'll see them in puddles quite a lot. They'll literally just sit with the wings like that in a puddle. They love water. So I try and keep mine in as natural environment as possible. So they've got stones, because they are rock birds. They've got stones to sit on, but they've got water fountains as well. And they poo a lot. So generally most mornings it's cleaning out the water fountains. Every morning I have to take the whole lid off, scoop all the water out, clean it all, disinfect it, put the lid back on. So that's my morning every morning. Just cleaning out the water fountains. And then I guess I'm in the office doing work for the website and do my orders. I get quite a few orders. I'm really lucky that it's grown really well and I'm quite well supported. But it's varied, each day slightly different, and then it's birds coming in. I get calls. I guess the calls start about 5:30 in the morning normally, and they finish about midnight some days, so I don't always answer my phone after 10 o'clock, but messages and Instagram messages about pigeons all over the place. It's getting back to those really.
So it is I mean, they're all long days, aren't they? Very, very long days.
They can be.
I presume that you must find it incredibly rewarding, because it's, you know,
there's no way you could do it otherwise. There's no way, because it just takes over you. It's my whole life. It is my whole life. So, but also it's not that bad. Like, I'm going out for dinner with my sister this afternoon, so you can work around it, because it's a business, but it's also the sanctuary. As long as I know the birds are happy this afternoon, I'm off out for dinner. So it's not all bad.
So do you ever release the birds? And I mean, I'm presuming these birds which are always going to stay with you because they are injured, or because they're not well enough to survive in the wild, or? So I give them a choice. So I'm a free fly sanctuary, and I do get criticism from other sanctuaries on that. I do, and from lots of people. But the reason I do that is these are, it sounds hypocritical when I've said these are not natural birds to this country, but they've always, they've been here a long, long time now. And if they're well and they want to fly back to where they were, to the flock that they were in, then that's what they should be able to do. So I let them fly free. They're in big aviaries, so I can close them in if I need to medicate them, or if I'm worried about any of them and I need to catch them. So they're in sheds at night, and they've all got their own bedrooms, but then they're in the aviaries as well. And then every morning the aviaries get open, and they all get able to, they're all able to fly out. So you can imagine I think I've got just about 300 here at the moment. I haven't counted them. I know most of them by name, but because of that I don't tend to count them. But you can imagine I take 2,500 birds a year. So if they all stayed, I'd be in a lot of trouble. So sometimes I will take them back. So if I've had them in from, say, Stafford, I get quite a lot of birds in from Stafford town centre. I will generally, once they've come in because they've got hair wrapped around the foot and that's much better, and they're eating and drinking, then I will take them back to Stafford. And I feel guilty every time, because I'm like, well, they could just stay here, but then if they stay here, I can't help any other birds that need help. So that the ones that come in as very, very young birds, babies, or the ones that come in as young adults, they tend to never leave. They're the ones that stay. And the reason I get criticised for being free fly is because we do get hawks here, and I do get hawk attacks now and again. I think 20 birds a year, which is quite high if you think I've only got 300 residents, but I take in 2,000, so it's quite a high number, and that's why I get criticised. But
That hawk is natural, she's just trying to eat, and it's always the one female sparrowhawk, it's none of the others that bother with them. But yeah, it's different if you've got cats as predators, and that's completely different because that's not natural. But to me, a hawk is natural. Yeah, she does take the birds, and I'm not going to change on that. They need to be able to fly, and they love flying. You can see that they go out flying just for the joy of flying. There's no other reason for them to fly here. They're not looking for food. They fly around twice a day generally for about 40 minutes, and they're happy. So yeah, I wouldn't change that.
So on to something controversial then. So we remember reading not so long ago about the big outcry you got when you were trying to recruit a volunteer. So one of the somebody who applied for a job, who applied for a volunteer role, obviously was not happy with the response they got, and then they went to the press, and the press picked it up.
Well, yeah, it wasn't as simple as that, but it was worse in a way. It wasn't anybody that had applied for the job. It was a Welsh hill farmer that got hold, that somehow had been sent the, nobody had even applied for the job at this stage. I just put it on Indeed, and I put it on my Facebook page, on my Instagram page, and I think on my TikTok. And somebody had obviously sent it to him, and he started shouting discrimination. And he is quite mouthy in the farming community. And I think he's got a few friends that are quite mouthy as well, and it just blew up. So I didn't know about this. This has been going on for a couple of days without me knowing, and because it started on Facebook, and I can't drive Facebook, I don't know how to use it. So I've got a Facebook page, but I'm very rarely on it. But if it had been on Instagram, I'd have spotted it. But anyway, the first thing I knew was the Daily Mail in London phoning me and asking for me for comment. And of course I was like, comment on what? And I thought it was a wind up. So I put the phone down and just kind of ignored them. And then they got back to me and said, oh no, that this has happened. And the Countryside Alliance are coming at you for discrimination. So that's kind of where it started, really. And of course, I said they wanted a statement, because I gave them the statement, and they didn't use it quite word for word, but it was kind of as good as. But it was amazing, because what happened was it really blew up, and I had lots of local newspapers and a few nationals, and I was interviewed by quite a few people. But the response was amazing, because there was so much hatred for pigeons and for me that the vegans got my back, and they were all really, really supportive. But also what happened, which was incredible, was that a load of people that weren't vegan, and we're talking about from all over the world, got in touch with me and said they were so disgusted by the comments that had been left about pigeons and about me as a person, that they were going vegan. It was the best outcome. It was just absolutely lovely, and I love confrontation, so I was quite happy to wind this farm up about that. So I did got quite a few emails and go, oh, look at these new vegans.
Well, I read the Daily Mail article, and it was just horrendous. It was absolutely typical what you would expect from the Daily Mail. It was absolutely foul. And but good on you. I mean, good on you for being, you have to be resilient, I suppose. But it's when you sort of like your name's pushed forward in the national press, it's not nice at all. But I'm glad it had that unintended outcome. That's good. so that farmer has actually helped our cause, because he's
I've been saying to my friends, I'm like, right, I need a new controversy for next year now, guys. What am I going to do? And as it happened, I've now got I've got three ladies that work for me part-time now, and they're all vegan anyway. And I do have the odd person come and ask if they can volunteer, or come and ask if they can work for me, and unless they're vegan, no, not having it. And it was just nice also speaking. So I'm part of the vegan business tribe, and it was nice being able to speak to a few people about legal issues there, and just getting the confirmation, the backup, really, that I am okay to give that.
Of course. That's the thing. They were all sort of like, they were all kind of going off half-cocked, because they actually weren't even checking the facts. I mean, I know this from sort of like stuff I've done in HR about protected characteristics and things, and they were completely wrong. So it's good to hear that you had a positive outcome of it.
It was brilliant, really good. And our sanctuary sales went up, the website got more traction. Our donations were higher that week, those few months. So it was really, really good, really positive for me.
So shall I maybe put my heads together and think of a controversy for next year?
I need a bad one. Well, I'm about to move to Wales, so I might bump into him, and then it'll all start again. You never know.
So if you had unlimited space and money, what would you do? I mean, I know you said you're in Staffordshire at the moment, and you're going to be moving to Wales. So what would you do?
So I haven't got unlimited money, but I often think, I mean, I'm a positive person anyway. I'd say I'm a realist, not an optimist, but I'm generally very, very positive. And we had some bad news I think it's about 3 weeks ago now, that the land that the sanctuary's on is being sold. And it's not so much that we can't afford to buy it. I probably could sort something out, but unfortunately where we are now is behind a property, and the property's being sold, and I don't live in the property, I live on a motorhome in the field, and the access is shared between between the two properties that are either side of me, and I can't afford that. It's a very expensive property that I can't afford to buy, and there's no point in me buying it. So I had to find somewhere else. Couldn't find anywhere around here. I've had some amazing response of other sanctuaries that have offered me temporary sort of accommodation and that kind of thing. But then last week, and this is how quickly it's been, which is why I look absolutely frazzled this week. I do. So about 10 days ago, an incredible lady got in touch with me. Now, she is the mother of my son's best friend, but I've never met her. So I've helped her daughter quite a lot. I've helped her move house into uni accommodation and different things, because this lady's got ME, so she doesn't drive, and she lives in Carmarthen in South Wales, in a van on a piece of woodland. So I've never met her, but we kind of know each other through that. Never spoken to her. And I had, through her daughter, I had a message last week that said, oh, mum's offered, if you want to, you can just go and live on her land. And I was like, what? What do you mean I can go and live on her land? This sounds a bit bonkers. What's going on there? And it's genuine. It's a genuine offer. So yes, I haven't got unlimited money. I am on a really tight budget, but it's going ahead, and I'm moving to a woodland in Carmarthen. It's just outside Carmarthen. Ironically, the woodland was bought from a dairy farmer about 15 years ago, but then that's when she became poorly and she's not been able to do anything with it. So I don't have unlimited money, but in theory, once we get the land sorted, I've got unlimited space. It's an incredible piece of land, so I'm very, very lucky. So I feel very bad that I've built up a community here in Staffordshire with the local veterinary practices. I take all the birds off them, and I don't know what's going to happen here when I'm gone. And you can imagine I've had sleepless nights over that, but equally there's nothing I can do about that, and it's not my fault. And even though I feel like a little bit it's my responsibility, there's nothing I can do. So yeah, so I'm off to South Wales, and hopefully I can help the pigeons out there. So I'll still be available for, like, because the pigeons that come to me don't just come from Staffordshire, they come from all over the UK. So I'll still be able to do that. It'll just not quite be as central, so it'll be a little bit further. People will just have to bring a pigeon and then stay with me and have a holiday in a field.
That's amazing.
So it's going to be an interesting couple of months, and I've started posting about it on my Instagram, and people, I think, are enjoying the story, even though it's not so much about pigeons at the moment, although it is about their new home. This is going to be a hard winter, because there's no electricity on site. There's a borehole for water, and the site is like that. It's a really steep woodland. So it's going to be really difficult, but we're going to get sorted. The pigeons at the moment are going to be on a track. They're going to have to be in slightly smaller aviaries, but they'll be all right because they'll be able to fly out soon. So I'm terrified. It's going to be brilliant. It's going to be brilliant. So yeah, but what amazing generosity from that lady. Now, that lady is not vegan. But after 3 conversations, I've still not met her, which is crackers, because I'm going to be living next to her in my van and her van. But she has already commented that she'd love to be vegan, and that's the way she feels that we should be. So yeah, we're going to hopefully convert another person to veganism as well. Brilliant. Which is what it's all about. So yeah,
it is. Yeah, I mean, I don't think people realise how massive it is to convert one person. You're saving a couple of hundred animals, straight away within 1 year. So it is a huge thing. Yeah. So you mentioned, we've heard you talk a couple of times about your website and stuff. I know you sell some absolutely beautiful cards and badges and all sorts of mugs and things like that. So how can people help your beautiful birds, the birds in your sanctuary? How else can they help?
Yeah, I guess go to the website, give it some traction, really, because that all helps with Google, and spread the word about it, or follow me on Insta. I'm on Insta and I'm on Facebook. I've got quite a big TikTok account, and I do try and post up there as often as I can. And yeah, just get involved. So the other thing I do is a daily gratitude post, although I'm just thinking I didn't actually do one last night because I was so tired, but I try and do a daily gratitude post, and that's really important to me. And that does absolutely give a sense of community. So I'll do a post about something I'm grateful for, and then I'll get lots of messages about that, and that's quite nice. As far as and that all helps, because I think that builds a sense of community, and then I tend to find then that people are more prepared to keep on board with me and keep following me and asking about the birds and that kind of thing, and spread the word, really. But yeah, if you go to the website, there's a donate button on there. If everybody, I've got about 6,500 followers on TikTok, if everyone on TikTok donated, then that would buy me my wind generator and my power pack and everything, because that's going to be about £5,500. So yeah, they can donate on the website, which is littlegreenpigeon.co.uk. If I was organised enough, you'd be able to see it. And Yeah, and they can donate or just make a purchase. We've got some lovely things, especially with Christmas coming up, and I'm not organised at all, but yeah, there's lots of nice things on there that they can buy as gifts. Everything on there generally is bird related. Most of it's pigeon, but it's certainly bird related, so like chickens and ducks, because I've got a lot of people that have rescue chickens and ducks and those kind of things that follow me as well, even though I don't look after them, but they're cute on looks, so that's why
I know that Rachel in our group, I mean, she's a huge fan of what you do. She's a bird person. I think you maybe spoke to her a couple of times via socials, but she's absolutely amazing. She's got birds at home, and she's but she's a huge fan of what you do. So how can we as individuals help pigeons in our area?
So yeah, the main thing to do is just look at them, just look at their behavior. What are they doing? With pigeons, they're not like any other bird. They should always fly away. Certainly wood pigeons should always be flying away from you, but with the city pigeons, they rely on us for food, so they're not like wild birds. They're not going to fly away, they are going to come to you for food. So a lot of cities and towns now are saying they're putting bans on and fines for feeding, so do be careful with feeding them. But I think, yeah, if you've got a bit of birds, it doesn't have to be pigeon food, it can be wild bird seed. If you can find somewhere quiet and give them a helping hand and give them some food or a little bowl of water, that's amazing. They really need the help. You could lobby your local council about having an out of town aviary. So one of the big problems with councils is the pigeon poo, which I understand it does ruin buildings. I mean, when pigeons aren't like gulls, they don't poo when they're flying, they only poo when they're sat down because of the way their legs work when they fly, which means that when they roost on the buildings, that's why you get that awful, like, loads and loads of poo. And yeah, I do understand where it comes from, because I have to scrub that off, and it's really hard. Like, even with a jet wash, you're not going to get it off, and you have to properly scrub it. So it is a problem on buildings, and it does erode stone. So I can see why councils have have issue with it. But what we were trying to do here, what they've done quite successfully in Chester, and what we were trying to do in Stafford before I moved, but obviously I'll try it when I move to, is to get an aviary outside of the city or the town. Then local people can go and help. And if you can encourage the birds out there and then stop feeding in the towns and cities and move the birds out there, and you're talking about a couple of miles out of town, don't need a big bit of land, you just need a big concrete aviary. If it's big enough so somebody can get in there, you can replace the eggs with plastic eggs, which is all we do here. So pigeons will do, when they're in a pair, they will produce about 2 eggs every 6 weeks. And the eggs take 20 days to mature, and then the babies take about another 40 days until they're adults. So it's a really quick sort of birth to adult time, which is why they're so prolific, which is why you get so many pigeons. But if you can break that cycle by taking the eggs away and replacing them with plastic eggs, then that's exactly what you're doing. You've broken the cycle. And I'm not suggesting that we do that to every single pigeon so the species dies out. But realistically, there's no other way of helping them other than to feed them, because the problem we've got is there are so many pigeons and not enough food. So there's lots of coccidiosis, there's lots of trichomonas. So there's problems in trichomoniasis. So there's lots of problems within the pigeon communities. They're all ill. So then you've got dying birds everywhere, which is awful for people and for the birds. So if we can try and limit the amount of pigeons that are being born, that would really, really help. So getting in touch with your local council and asking them what they're doing about the pigeon population in your town and city, and offering help and suggesting things like an aviary outside the town. And if you Google the one in Chester, it's a really good example of that. They've done really, really well out there. So yeah, that is a good thing you can do. Other than that, it is, if you really want to help them, get yourself a net, like a fishing net type net. And if you see a pigeon that's struggling, befriend it a little bit, catch it and take it to your local sanctuary. So they will be struggling in the towns and cities from the diseases I've mentioned, but the main thing they struggle from is their feet. They're not meant to walk on concrete, despite the fact that they're jungle birds and the rock birds originally. They're not really supposed to walk on concrete. But because the food's on the floor in the town centres, they walk miles and they get really poorly feet. You'll see them, they'll get a bit like chickens get bumblefoot, they get a similar thing. But they also get hair, human hair and string and packaging wrapped around their feet, and they don't have the ability to get that off. They can't chew, they don't have teeth, and their beaks aren't very strong, so they can't get that off. Once that is wrapped around their feet, they're stuck. And then obviously they walk more and the foot swells, and that's why you see a lot of pigeons around with like stubs instead of feet, and it's terribly painful for them. I mean, they're massively resilient birds, which is the other reason why I like them. But so they'll cope. But I mean, some of them walk around with 1 foot, and it's awful to see. So if you can befriend your flock a little bit and befriend your local rehabber, so that you can catch them and help your local rehabber catch them and take them to the sanctuary, then that's a really big help. And the other thing you can do to help sanctuaries is to try and remember that they are not always able to attend. And that's the thing that we struggle with the most. And I think all wildlife sanctuaries are going to be the same, not just pigeons. So I will get 30 calls a day, and I will guarantee that 20 of those will be people saying, can you come out too? Can you come to my house? No, we can't. Because if we do that, if I'm gone for an hour and a half trying to find a pigeon in a town centre, I've missed 20 phone calls and the pigeons here aren't being looked after. So the main thing you can do is just try and be available to help the pigeons, but in a really proactive way. And I understand not everybody can do that, but even if you can set up a little group where somebody's got a car and somebody else has got petrol money and they can just help your local sanctuary get the bird to them, then that really helps, like more than anything else. Even in a way, more than funding, that helps, because you can't leave and be driving around collecting pigeons from everywhere. So, and that's the same with all wildlife.
It is. I mean, for Paws Week, it's one of the things we say as well. Please bring the birds to us, or bring the hedgehogs to us, because we've got a limited number of volunteers. I mean, I've been away for a few days and I kind of like checked back over the emergency chat, and there's just dozens and dozens of animals, and you constantly you can be driving one place and then you divert it to somewhere else, and in the meantime you get to the Paws, and then you've these other calls coming through as well, which you could have picked up, but you just need people to drive up and take them. And I know, like you said, it is hard for people, especially when the gulls and the big birds, people to actually catch them.
I can't imagine. The work you do with gulls is amazing. I wouldn't know where to start with a gull. These pigeons are little and they're not very aggressive. So.
But a lot of people are still frightened of pigeons, aren't they? They're frightened. They'll say that they're dirty, they don't want to catch diseases off them, and they're going to peck them. And a lot of people have bird phobias. But it is
totally it's the flapping, isn't it?
It is. It's a flapping. They don't know how to handle them. But like you said, it's quickly. We say if you haven't got a net, use something like a jacket to kind of like snuggle them in and kind of like keep a hold of them, and they'll be absolutely fine. Yeah,
they will be fine, and they're not going to bite you. Well, they can have a nibble, but it doesn't hurt.
It's a peck, but it's nothing. It's nothing compared with a herring gull.
Oh no, you can keep your herring gull. Thanks.
Or a gannet. Keep well out of the way.
Oh
anyway,
my God.
I think we're running out of time now, so
that's gone quickly.
I was going to ask what's next, but you've kind of already mentioned with moving to Wales and everything. So you said you weren't an expert, but you're a hell of a more of an expert than I am.
I'll do my best. They're happy. That's all you can do is look at, they seem happy. They've got everything they need. So
brilliant. So thank you very much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you. It's been lovely.
Today. And hopefully we'll catch up again very soon.
When I'm in Wales.
Excellent. Brilliant. So we want to wish you all the best for your move.
Thank you.
And all the best for getting through the winter as well, because I know it's going to be awful. Fingers crossed. And we need to direct people to your website, to all your socials, to kind of like watch your story, watch everything develop, and also exactly, and also watch the sort of like your TikToks and everything as well.
Thank you.
So I'm gonna sign off now, and this is Anna Amelia from Northeast Animal Rights saying thank you very much. It's been an absolute privilege and pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you for all your support, Anna. You're lovely. You've been so
very welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, take care then.
Have a great day.
You as well. Right, bye then.
Bye.